one with the story with the
What was the name?
Gigi.
Gigi.
You can tell it.
Oh my gosh, you're going to be a star on YouTube. And so I think like those two things right there is what made me like more of a believer of like weird stuff.
Oh, okay.
Because it was just unexplainable.
When did the first thing happen when you were like, oh my gosh, something is happening? When you actually notice something is happening and it's not like, I can't prove it.
Okay, you go first.
Because little things would happen and you know, us humans brush it off.
Mm.
But when something actually, when you were like, oh, I can't brush this off, this is...
Tell them about Elias. That's when it started for you. You were having all these weird things happening in your house.
Okay, so it kind of goes before him when I was living in a different place. I don't know like if it was like I made someone mad or whatever, but all of a sudden I started having dreams all the time of like this gigantic tarantula. And every night I would, for like, I think, what was it, like a month or so, that I was just, like about a month, I would wake up every night, like dreaming about a tarantula. But it was one of those, like out of body experiences where like you think you're awake, but you're really dreaming. And so I would every night be laying in bed wearing the same clothes that I went to sleep in, thinking that I'm awake, and then I would see like the tarantula like come down, or I'd see it on the wall like away from me or something. And for the longest time I just kept seeing this tarantula, and I would like jump out of bed screaming and like turn on the light, and I was always like so scared to go to sleep. And then I looked it up on the internet, of course like Google, and it said I don't know how like legit it was, but it said on one website I found that I was like cursed type thing, like someone had put something on me, and that made sense because the people that I was hanging around with at the time were like very negative, and then like their mom didn't like me, and it was always one of those like haha, she probably is like a witch or something just because she was so horrible. But like now I'm like, oh crap, like, but I don't hang out with these people anymore, and I've never dreamt about a tarantula again. So
wow.
Yeah, it was really, really weird. So that was one of those things where I didn't understand why I kept dreaming about tarantulas. And then when I like looked it up, and I'm like, well, maybe that's real. Like maybe someone did something not great.
Well, because I know like a lot of insects are, what would be the word, like intertwined with like bad spirits.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you're around like bees, a lot of bees try to come and attack you. That means like something's around you.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, spiders is one of them. And so.
Yeah, so there was that. Well, when Grandma passed away, I was what, 13?
Mm-hmm.
That was 2001?
Something like that, yeah.
I think it was about like around 2001. My grandma had lived with us, and she had passed away, and my mom and dad were out of town. And I was staying at the house with myself, and it was just me and my chihuahua at the time. And it was just late at night. All the lights were off in the house. I was in the living room, and all of a sudden she jumps off the couch, and she runs over to the hallway. And she's just barking like crazy, and I'm, of course, like freaking out because I think at the time I was like 13. And the creepiest part was my dog was like walking backwards as if something was like coming towards her.
Yeah.
And her hairs were up, and she was barking like crazy, and she was like, I think that's what made it the most creepiest thing, was that she was walking backwards, like back into the living room.
Like somebody was trying to...
Yeah, like as if someone were like coming towards her, and it was just the creepiest thing. I was so scared. And then she stopped barking for a second and then took off back to the hallway, And she was gone for a couple minutes, came back, went back to the couch, and went to sleep. And of course, I'm over here freaking out, and I'm like, oh my God. This was within like a couple weeks of my grandma passing away. And so I feel like it was her, because like why else would my dog be freaking out like that? And she went to like the room, like where she was living, because she was like in the hallway area. Okay.
He's cute. Sorry.
So
There was no reason for your dog to act like that.
No, not at all. I literally went through the whole house, like after that, like turning on every light in every room. There was like nothing there. There was no one there.
Me.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I think the most recent thing for me was we went to Texas. My mom, my husband, son, and a couple family members. And we went to the gravesite of my grandma, her mom. And I didn't know that like grabbing something from the gravesite was bad. I was like, oh, it's my grandma, she loves me, whatever. So I got like these really pretty like pebbles that were sprinkled all over her grave. And I think I grabbed like 3 of them. They're like different colored ones. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to take this and have something for my grandma, right? Like, there were rocks. Like, I didn't think anything. And I'm like, well, it's my grandma. She loves me. Right after that, we came back home. And not too long after, he started with, like, this imaginary friend, I guess. He started, what was it? Gigi. He would always call out the name Gigi, and he would point. And he would be like, Gigi. And he doesn't talk very much, and so for him to just come up with a word like that and like,
a name,
and I'm like, what? And like, who is Gigi? And then it started getting creepy, and I'm like, where is Gigi? And he would point, like let's say I was in the living room, and then he'd point to like the hallway, and he'd be like, Gigi, and I'm like, what? And so I started telling my mom, I was like, it's really creepy because I don't know who Gigi is, but
and the atmosphere in the room, would you feel?
I always at night felt like creeped out, like very paranoid. My husband was gone on deployment, and so it was just me and him. And every night I would just feel really paranoid. Like I would need to get up and like check the doors, make sure they're locked again. And it was just always one of those like you stare at the door in the middle of the night and like expect there to be a shadow or something there. Like it was just I know that sounds silly, but it was one of those eerie feelings, like I feel like there's something watching me. And I don't know if it was me just in my head because he's saying Gigi, so I'm just imagining like, oh, there's something in the house or, whatever, because he's creeping me out. So I'm like, I don't know if it was me like imagining something, but my mom ended up reading that, how was it again?
That like, you can't take anything out of the cemetery.
Yeah.
So then she tells me all this is going on, and I'm reading up on it, and I asked a friend of mine, and then she said, well, when did all this happen? And I says, well, it started when she brought these rocks from my mother's grave, and we didn't think anything of it, because, well, it's my mom, So she had them up, and so then she told me, she says, you need to take them back to the cemetery. And I says, where you got them from is where you need to take them back. And I says, I can't, because this is in Texas, and we're here in California, so there's no way I can go to Texas just to take the rocks. And then she recommended that I go to the closest cemetery, of course, here in Visalia. And so I came and got the rocks, but first she said, you need to bless the house. And I have no clue what I'm doing because I don't know any of this stuff, So then she just said, I'll be praying for you. Tell me what time you're going to do it, and I'll be praying for you. And I said, okay. I was really freaking out because, I watch a lot of paranoia movies and whatnot, And so it was like, are they going to come and attack me, type of a thing. So I just kind of like, okay. So I got the sage like she told me. I opened up all the windows and everything, and I did my little thing. And afterwards, it was really weird because when I went into her computer room, I had all the windows open and I was doing the sage, walking around with the sage and praying. Just on the corner of her, where the computer room is, there's a window, and there's this black cat just staring at me. And it's like, it was creepy because it wasn't like it was going to attack me or anything, but it was the eye contact that we had. I mean, it really freaked me out, and I'm thinking, oh my God, you know. And then so I, you know, continued praying, and then I kept looking at this cat, and it just kept staring at me. And then finally I turned around and looked at it, and it just walked away. And then it was like, we've never seen this cat. There's never been a cat in the neighborhood. So that was creepy for me. Yeah, that was really, really creepy because the way it looked at me, like it was, I don't know, looking into my soul type of thing, you know? I don't know, but those eyes, I'll never forget those eyes. They were really, really creepy. Really creepy. So anyway, long story short to all this, the cat goes away, I finish my thing. I got a paper towel. I put the rocks, I didn't touch the rocks. I grabbed them with a paper towel, and I put them in a little tea towel that Sam had, and put them in there, you know, and I wrapped them up, and I went to the cemetery, you know, and she told me that when I got to the cemetery I had to say a prayer and then just throw the rocks back in the cemetery. So I'm thinking, okay, where do I go, you know, anywhere? And so I'm walking around, and it just something felt like this is where you need to throw them, you know. And so there were several graves, and then there was like an empty spot, and I just kept feeling like that's where I needed to put the stones. So I just threw the stones on the ground, and the tea towel that I had, I threw it in the trash because I didn't want to bring it home with me, because it was like, okay, you know, what's going to happen now? So, but ever since then, we blessed the house and we did the cleansing and all, and thank God, you know, she hasn't had any issues that I'm aware of, you know. And that was my first experience in doing anything like this, because I know nothing. You know, I was just going by what someone told me to do to cleanse the house, you know, so.
And he's never said Gigi again?
Yeah.
Ever since then?
Yeah.
Like not one time?
And he's never seen or said Gigi there, you know.
It just stopped. It was like Gigi didn't exist anymore.
I've always had things happen to me. I'm not going to say I have a sixth sense because I don't, but I've always been very, I have a very vivid mind, and I don't know if it's my mind playing games on me or not, but since I can remember, like 5, 6 years old, you know, seeing things and feeling things, and it was like, oh, okay, you know, as a kid you don't know what's going on, but as I grew, you know, then I started feeling more things, you know, and it was just really weird.
What was one of them as a child? Do you really remember?
The one that I remember the most was going to my sister's house, and she lived about 4 blocks away from our house, and she it was like a ranch home. She lived kind of like in the back, so you had to go through this road, and then there's really woodsy area. So you had to go through this road to get to her house. And like I said, there's woodsy area, trees and shrubs and whatnot on both sides. So when I used to come around like this, right here in this corner, I would see something white, like, I'm going to say like a ghost, like somebody in a sheet, you know, because it would never touch the ground. But as soon as I came around, this thing would come out, and it would just follow me, you know, evenly. If I'd stop, it stopped. If I ran, it ran. And then it just kind of went all the way up to where my sister's house was. And of course it was kind of like you would have to make a left turn. Well, I would go up, I'd make a left, and this thing would make a right. And when I'd come home in the evening or late afternoon, it would do the same thing. And then when I would make my turn, it would make its turn and go away. I don't know if it was protecting me because I was by myself, or, you know, was it an angel, or was it someone trying to do harm? I don't know. But that was the one that kind of always made me kind of creepy in a way, but in a way it was good, I guess, you know.
So you kind of like, it wanted you to know that it's there, to acknowledge it, but then it was just there.
Mm-hmm.
That was, nothing was gonna happen.
Yeah.
I'm just here.
Yeah.
Well, I remember being little and her telling me the stories on how she fought these things and how she fought warlocks and witches and stuff, and it was always like, what the real?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I always felt like maybe she's just pulling my leg, or maybe it's just a story, a scary story for me to fall asleep to. And
You're going to take pictures and you're going to see something in the background.
Oh my gosh, don't say that. That's okay.
that would be crazy.